What's up guys, my name is Liam and today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new NuPhy Air60. This is a low profile Hall effect keyboard. When I was asked to review this keyboard, the thing about it that really caught my attention was that it is featuring the brand new low profile Gateron Jade switches, but little did I know once I actually got this in my hands how impressive this keyboard truly is. It does come with features like SOCD and mod tap, just to name a few, and we'll jump into all those here in just a little bit, but also comes with an 8K polling rate, 8K scanning, so the performance of this with the features really is jam-packed. It's been really impressive so far. So with that being said, could this possibly be the perfect Hall effect low profile gaming keyboard for you? Let's check it out. Before we get started today, I did want to let you know this was sent out to me. However, everything you're going to be hearing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. Included inside the box, it does come with some additional keycaps. In case you're not a fan of the transparent keycaps, it does come with to swap those out. And then it also does come with a keycap and switch puller. And then over here it does come with a 90-degree angled USB-C cable, and this cable is sitting at 59 inches in length. So here's a look at the keyboard itself. Has a really good and clean aesthetic. Nothing that's really too far off from a normal 60% style keyboard as far as the layout goes, so everything's good there. This does have a little bit of heft to it for a smaller form factor of a keyboard. Definitely not on the heavier end as some of my all aluminum case keyboards that I use. But as we can see here, it is coming out to approximately 543 grams in weight. The design factor of this is incredibly thin. Coming over here, starting at the top of the keyboard, over here on the top left-hand side, you do have a switch for 3 different modes. You have M1, M2, and M3. We'll break that down in the software a little bit later, but M1 I have set currently as gaming mode. M2 is just a normal Windows mode, and I believe M3 is currently set to an Apple mode. So for those of you that like to use the Hall effect keys with a higher sensitivity when you're gaming, that's cool. It does have the option if you want to change it, if you prefer some type of a different mode or different settings on the fly when you're using this just for typing. The top half of it does consist of an aluminum piece for the tray, and then down here on the bottom, this is a full ABS plastic case. You do have these very thin rubberized feet down here in the bottom corners, and then up here in the top left hand corners, same thing. You do have that rubberized feet, but it has 2 different adjustments if you wanted to adjust the angle of the height for the front of your keyboard, and both these options also have the rubberized bottom on them. There's nothing over here on the right hand side of the keyboard. On the left hand side of the keyboard is where they do have the USB-C connectivity, and that is why they do provide you with that 90-degree USB-C cable. The overall profile of this keyboard is just incredibly small. This is the smallest HE keyboard that I've gotten my hands on. So the overall layout of this, I do feel like they've done a great job with it. Very impressive. Personally, I would prefer if they did have the USB-C up here in the top hand side of the keyboard. Honestly, anywhere I do prefer the left side, but even if they were to have it in the middle. But aside from that, everything about this does feel really good as far as the overall layout goes to me. The overall sound profile of this keyboard, to me, it does actually sound really good. I do feel like the only thing that could use a little bit of work is the sound of the space bar, but just to show you what I'm talking about, let's go ahead and drop a really quick sound test. The keycaps that are being used on this board, they do feel great. They feel high quality. Here's a look of them from the front and the back. These are a little bit on the thinner end, and I did notice that when you do have the backlighting on, if that is something you do prefer to leave on with your board, you do notice it slightly shining through the keycap itself. And then here is a look of the transparent keycaps that are also included. And here's a look at these new Gateron low profile Jade switches that did come pre-installed. You do have 2 options when you pick this up. The original Jades is the option I went with. The reason being is because it has an estimated actuation force of around 30 GF. You also have an additional option to choose these Jade Pro switches. The reason that I went with the original is because the normal Jades are rated around 30 GF, same as the original version, whereas if you were to go go for the Pro. They do come in at around 40 GF, and I have noticed people with the 40 GF version saying that they do feel a bit heavier than the original Jade implementation. And going back and forth and testing these original low profile Jades to the original Gateron Jade switches, they do feel just a little bit more stiff and perhaps just a slightly little bit heavier. That could be due to this dual rail design system. So overall, I do feel pretty happy that I did go with the original low profile Jades on this. And looking at the stem wobble on these, not a whole lot of stem wobble, so these do feel pretty solid, and it does offer a pretty premium feeling experience. But these switches are also hot swappable. Here is a close-up look of what the underneath of them looks like into the PCB. Also, when it comes to the overall build of this board, taking a look at the stabilizers, you can see there is a nice hefty amount of lube in there. And the actual design of this, the tray that the switches actually go into, it's actually a part of the top of this aluminum case right here. So as you can see, that's not something that you would be able to swap out separately if you decide to go with some type of material, since it is actually built into this top piece itself, with the bottom over here being the plastic. Once you do remove the screws in here, as you can see, it is actually mounted to the bottom of the plastic tray. Just simply open this up, and right below that, here is the circuit board. There is a little piece of dampening foam behind here. This foam feels really soft and squishy. And then right underneath that, it does look like they have a pretty thick piece of dampening silicone here. It's kind of broken up there so it fits nicely into the bottom of the tray here. For the software, they're using a web-based driver, and you can only currently edit the mode that you have selected on your keyboard. See here, as I hover my mouse over these other options, it will not allow you to do so. So what I'm going to do right now is physically change the switch on the back of the keyboard, and then this mode will become present, as this one will not, as you can see. So I'm going to go ahead and swap it back. So to make adjustments to this current mode, just click on it. For this first tab, this is where you can make any adjustments to the keys if you wanted to do so. If you were to left click on this key, then you can come down here and left click to make adjustments. If you want to access the advanced controls, what you will need to do from this menu is right click on any given key. Here's where you have options for dynamic keystroke, mod tap, toggle key, rapid shift, SOCD, hyper tap, and then if you scroll down to the bottom, any one of these adjustments you were to apply to the key, if you wanted to reset it back to the default settings, you can also do it this way. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these settings. As you can clearly see, there is an explanation to them, but I will go ahead and demonstrate to you really quick how easy one of these are to use. For example, SOCD, and for this option, very clearly, you want to use mostly the A and the D key. Once you hit confirm, it will go ahead and set up SOCD on A and D, so it will automatically cut off the A key. If you press down the D key the second it receives the input, the response time is instantaneous. I have been using these settings the entire time I've been testing out this keyboard. They have been working flawlessly with no issues. So this, without question, is one of the most impressive things about this keyboard, that you do have all of these functions accessible to you. Over on the next tab for the trigger settings, a couple options I want to go over here. This is going to be also one of the most important parts of setting up your keyboard. As you can see here, you do have the option to set your actuation point. You could set it as low as 0.1 millimeter for the initial actuation, and it does allow you to adjust it up as high as 3.3 millimeters. It also does give you an option down here to adjust the dead zone if that is something that you wish to do. Generally, when I first got this, rapid trigger was turned off, and once you do pull this open, the rapid trigger on this keyboard, it does allow you to make adjustments up to 0.01 millimeters, and here's where you can change the actuation steps for the point step and for the rapid trigger step as well. So same thing over here, you can adjust as low as 0.01 millimeters, make adjustments in 0.01 millimeters as well, all the way up to 2.2 millimeters, and the same thing applies over here on the release. And then aside from that, you just have the separate press and release sensitivity and the continuous rapid trigger options over here on this side. One thing I do want to make sure to let you guys know really quickly is once I did update the firmware on this keyboard, I always recommend going and configuring the calibration of the keyboard after you're done doing so. And this keyboard does allow you to select the switches. So even if at a later point, let's say you got the magnetic Jade, just the originals like I did, and later on decide you want to switch over to the pros, it's cool that it does give you the option here for the profile. But all you need to do is make sure that you select your switch and then come up here to the recalibrate tab. You do want to make sure that all these keys over here are green. All my settings, it does show that I am using the original Jade switch, and this is the current settings that I have on all my keys. And yeah, this does allow you to go in and make individual changes to individual keys if you wanted to fine tune them and have separate actuation points or rapid trigger settings per key. But next up, you do have the lighting effects tab. This does allow you to adjust the backlighting on the keyboard as well as the little side lights that are over here on the side. So you do have different presets for those side lights. I do feel like that is a really cool touch. And then last but not least, come over here to the mode setting. Once you get this set up, you do want to make sure you come over here to get this optimized. I believe when I got my keyboard, I think it was set to like a 1000 or the 4000 polling rate. So if you do want to get the full 8000 hertz polling rate out of here, this is where you'll need to come to adjust that. So really cool. It does allow you to adjust this using whichever polling rate you choose to do so. But aside from that, I do recommend using this gaming optimization check mark right here. And for the no tick rate, I do use no tick rate and this low stabilization level setting to get the lowest latency and best performance out of this keyboard. When it comes to performance of the Air60 HE, I did run this through my solenoid test with my high-speed camera and compared it next to the Wooting 60 HE. I always put out a disclaimer for this test in all my videos. Just to be clear, this is not the most accurate way to test out the latency, as there can be a bunch of different varying factors that can actually alter the result of these tests. So please do bear that in mind as you're watching this. With that being said, I am doing this just for fun to kind of get an idea on where it sits. This was going back and forth and trading blows with the Wooting 60 HE. I actually ran the test on both of them 20 times as they were kind of neck and neck to one another. For the press, they did come out with this one winning 10 times, where the Wooting 60 HE came out ahead 10 times. But on the release, this one just very slightly pulled ahead, winning 11 out of the 20 times, and obviously the Wooting 60 HE won 9 times on the release. I keep getting requests to put out a chart for the latency on all these keyboards, and that is something I do plan on doing in the future. There is a couple of companies out there working on some test rigs. They're supposed to be more accurate for these HE keyboards. I'm working really hard to get my hands on them, and once I do, I'll be more than happy to test out all these keyboards that I've reviewed on my channel and show you guys the overall results. All right guys, so that about wraps things up on the NuPhy Air60 HE. And like I said in the very beginning of this video, I'm just very impressed with the overall package that you're getting here, especially coming in at the price that this does come in. It is a pretty low price overall for what you're getting. Now, just to let you guys know my personal preference, I do still prefer something that's a little bit on the heftier end, a little bit larger size of a keyboard myself. I'm not really the biggest fan of these low profile keyboards, but with that being said, if you know what to expect with a low profile keyboard, and if it's something that you're into, I must say that this is without question the most impressive small form, low profile Hall effect keyboard that I've gotten my hands on. Not only is the performance fantastic, up there with some of the top performing specs on the market, but all the features this comes with, really the feeling of it, I do feel like these Gateron switches that are low profile, they do feel pretty good. I do slightly still prefer the originals over these, just a little bit more. But if you are looking for a small form keyboard, something that you can take around with you on your laptop or something like that, or if you just like the smallness of this on your desk to save you some space, I can say without question that this is an incredibly impressive keyboard. So if you have any questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.